Governor Ron DeSantis just unleashed on FEMA for its failed responses to both Hurricane Milton and Helene as Florida braces for another hurricane season. DeSantis is warning that bureaucratic delays left Floridians stranded and frustrated, and he's making it crystal clear that Florida deserves better. Stick around, because after this video, I'm going to walk through step by step exactly how FEMA is letting the American people down. This is Andy with TrendingPolitics.com. Make sure you like and subscribe. Here we go.
What I would say is prepare now. What I found is if you don't prepare, then it just seems like then you end up getting one, right? When people prepare, I think it's like, it's just weird the way it goes. But prepare. Now, I will say this. We had 3 Gulf Coast hurricanes last year, 2 majors. Debbie didn't probably impact this area as much as the other 2 did, but it did have impacts across the west coast of Florida for sure. And so, and these are not easy things to deal with. I would say this, though, in spite of all the challenges, find me another part of the country that would have bounced back as quick. You just would not see it. I mean, I know there's a lot more that needs to be done. Don't get me wrong. But most of these areas that would get hit like this, a lot of them, it'd be like a lost decade, right? It would just that's typically what happens in other parts of the country. So I think that Floridians take this stuff seriously, and they respond. And look, we do stuff at the state level. The local folks do stuff leading up to it to prepare any search and rescue, and then working to get the power on, the debris, all that stuff. And we'll do that again if it's called on it. I do think that just on the heels of Milton and Helene, one of the things that was the most frustrating for people is dealing with FEMA. The FEMA, they want to be able to rebuild or this or that, and all of a sudden you have to go through this massive bureaucracy. And I know local governments, some of the local governments have been difficult. I do think we're going to be signing legislation that's going to try to streamline some of that I know some of our legislators in those affected areas we're talking about. But our view when we're preparing and helping to meet the immediate needs and the state level is we do not want to get ground down in bureaucracy. I mean, that's the enemy of these things. I don't know what FEMA is going to look like this hurricane season. I know that's kind of in flux. But certainly, hopefully we don't get anything. But if you do, I know President Trump is committed to clearing through bureaucracy. How that happened with Milton and Helene was not good for our property owners, our homeowners who were just trying to rebuild. So hopefully we get a break. You always knock on wood. I mean, we've had 6 major hurricanes in 7 years. The previous 10 years, we didn't have a single hurricane hit. And historically, sometimes that's the way these things go. So I think it would be really good for the state to not have. We are, of course, at the state level preparing as if we are going to have to face some of these events. And I think that Floridians should do the same. Now, I know that we've had well, I shouldn't say we, some have had difficulty, getting the budget teed up, and that includes some tax breaks. You got to have the tax breaks for the disaster preparedness. I mean, Floridians are able to go in, they're able to get what they need, and they're able to save money on those disaster preparedness holidays. We normally would be in one right now. Usually the first 2 weeks of hurricane season, then we do another 2 weeks kind of at the height of hurricane season as we get in to late August, early September. And so hopefully we'll get that so that folks get relief on that. But there's different storms have different things that happen. So Hurricane Ian, obviously it impacted this area and impacted Fort Myers most dramatically. But within like 36 hours, Wawa was open, Publix was open, the gas stations were I mean, it was a massive storm, and yet you go down there and you had that. You had Helene. It was a lot of surge, obviously. Didn't necessarily disable the ports. But then with Milton, you had Port Manatee and you had Tampa that were offline for a little bit. That interrupted their ability to receive fuel. So you ended up having gas stations that weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Some of them didn't have the power, even though they're supposed to have generators. So they didn't have their generators, others with the fuel. So we set up these gas stations, and basically people could go and get fuel and do that. And we did them, I remember we did it, UK, where you were with us, we were here doing that. We did it in Hillsborough County, we did it there. And it's fine, we're happy to do it, but literally, we had those same fuel contracts ready for Ian. We just didn't really need to use them. We ended up going in some of the more rural areas where we had some problems. So there's all these different things that can happen. But I do think that folks that have been through this, kind of understand the drill. You may not immediately be able to get fuel at a gas station after a storm. So have some fuel, top off your tank, and have a canister in your garage. That'll be good for you. Assume that you may need to have a few days worth of food. Now we've been able to set up these pods where you have the food, well, mostly the water, but also some snacks. We've set those up within 24 hours, 36 hours of these recent hurricanes. That is not the norm. Normally, it's at least 72 hours before you set up any of these points of distribution, and it may be that some of those things may not be able to be set up depending on if there's damage. So just prepare to have that. Prepare to be without power. Florida and the hurricane responses in the last 4 years have had the fastest power restoration in the history of hurricanes. That's just a fact. I mean, Milton had 4.2 million restored in under 7 days. You don't see that. That is not the norm. And people who are native Floridians or have been here a long time know historically that wasn't the norm. And we've had great buy-in from the utilities, even the co-ops, everyone down the line. And that's huge if you can get things back on quick, but that may not be doable, right? So assume you're gonna go days, many days. I mean, we say 7 days on everything. Food, non-perishable food, water, ability to generate electricity if you want to have that, whether it's a generator or whatnot, having a fuel supply, all those things. What you don't want to do is kind of get hit with the rush right before.
Let's talk specifics about FEMA's failures. During Hurricane Milton, a FEMA supervisor outrageously instructed relief team members to skip homes displaying Trump signs. Yes, political discrimination in disaster relief. It really happened. And at least 20 homes in Lake Placid, Florida were deliberately ignored. This led to immediate backlash and the firing of the supervisor and a civil rights lawsuit filed by Florida Attorney General Ashley Moody. FEMA's issues don't stop there. Acting Administrator David Richardson even joked he wasn't aware of the U.S. hurricane season, a disturbing lapse in leadership. FEMA also scrapped a nearly completed, updated hurricane response plan right before the 2025 season, reverting to old, outdated guidance and causing internal chaos. After Hurricane Helene, FEMA's outdated flood maps disastrously underestimated damage in North Carolina, leaving thousands without proper insurance coverage. Over 126,000 homes were damaged, with infrastructure losses totaling nearly $60 billion. Families were left without resources or hope at all, many forced to endure lengthy waits just to receive basic assistance and essentials. Beyond these specific events, FEMA's systemic problems included massive delays in providing temporary housing for displaced residents, leaving families stranded in shelters for weeks. Critical communication breakdowns meant thousands had no clear guidance on how or to receive help in the first place. FEMA's own internal reports admitted severe shortcomings in response to speed and logistics management. And in some areas, basic supplies like food and water arrived days later than promised, leaving communities desperate and vulnerable. And FEMA was criticized for mishandling funds, with audits revealing millions of dollars in questionable spending and misallocated resources during critical moments. Governor DeSantis is fighting to ensure that this never happens again, demanding accountability, transparency, and substantial reform of FEMA's entire emergency response structure. He's pushing for clearer leadership, faster response protocols, and ensuring politics never again play a role in disaster relief. And if you're fed up with bureaucratic incompetence and believe we need to hold FEMA accountable, like, subscribe, and share this video. It's time to protect our communities and demand the change we need. This is Andy with TrendingPolitics.com. Stay vigilant, stay prepared, and I'll see you next time.